Now, reconstruction is what is happening indiscriminately, and everywhere it's happening, because to justify what you're demolishing, someone will say, okay, I'll make a same roof and I'll give you that same Jaroka, but I'll put it on a 20-story building. Now, that's doing cheating. Cheating according to me, but not. Adaptive reuse. Now, this is a term which has come from abroad, where, you know, the so-called the old city where the pollution were there. People moved out to suburban areas, but when the pollution got controlled because coal and other things, steam engines stopped, then they came back and they were vacant premises. But in India, you have a problem of misuse, overuse, disused. You hardly find a vacant property. I'm talking of Mumbai, where you don't find this thing. So the word adaptive reuse is not very oftenly used, but we use it. Now, when you are practicing conservation, this is like how a doctor takes oath. We have to take oath of these things. First thing is we have to do minimum intervention. Of course, it affects your fees, definitely, but it's good because it retains maximum of original fabric. It retains the authenticity. Then we have to use the like-to-like material. Very fact, if you go and see Charminar, it's still fresh. Go and see many Corbusier's building or any buildings which were done there, RCC is showing signs of decay. So the very fact that Charminar is fresh is because it was time-tested material, not that RCC is not. RCC has its life, you have to prolong it. Then we have an interesting concept called 6 inches, 6 yards. It's like a darner, you know, Rafuwala. From 6 yards, you should not be able to differentiate what has been done. But if you're at 6 inches, you should be able to make what repairs has been done. This is something which we use in scientific conservation. Then as a good doctor, we are supposed to completely document your work before, during, and after completion. This is the basic fundamentals of a good conservation architect. Then, this is easy said but very difficult to do, reversible intervention. That's the reason why I've added wherever possible. And last is avoid experimentation. And we tend to do a lot of experimentation. Sorry. Now, when you practice conservation, you have many problems. It's not an easy job. It's a quickly emerging discipline with a lot of experiments. Britain has two centuries of experience, and we have 2 decades of experience. And we are overnight trying to do that bridge. We have unsympathetic environment, very ill-informed users, the clients, and sometimes the contractors. There's no easy traditional loss of tradition and skill. We've lost many of our traditions and skills. No one knows how to do a good lime plaster with mixing of gur and methi and urad dal and other things, whatever specific this thing you're talking. Not many people know about it now. You have to reinvent, you have to experiment. And lime is not an IS product. So iske liye, that's the reason why the phrase has come, chuna laga ke gaya. Right. Now, then you have unavailability of traditional materials and craftsmen. And the worst is that poor appreciation of work, and hence poor remuneration for craftsmen. If you read E.B. Havel, and you'll be surprised to see that when Taj Mahal was being built, the master craftsman who was called from Persia was paid some 540 rupees. I'm talking of 1680s or whatever, whenever Taj was built. He was paid that much amount per month. That's the reason why you get a landmark or a monument. If you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. So this is what is happening. The idea is you don't want to pay the craftsman much, so you don't get good quality work, which becomes heritage of tomorrow. There's very poor technical support. There's no platform for sharing of experience amongst professionals. For architects who are architects would know that. Element of surprise. There is a lot of surprise when we do conservation. Sometimes you discover one full wall cladded with gold, and sometimes you are about to open a false ceiling and the whole ceiling collapses. So that's the fluctuation. Second, it's like root canal. It's a very slow and a tedious process. So there are people who want it overnight because inauguration is happening. That's not conservation. Persistent of, this is the worst, and this is the major area. Persistent of government format for quotation and bidding. If you try to get L1, you had it. Now, I was fortunate, I was doing, one of my first government project was with ONGC, perhaps I'm not showing it here. And I was given the L1. And I argued and argued. What I realized is for offshore projects, they don't do L1. But when it comes to heritage, which is irreplaceable, they have to follow L1. Anyway, coming to the larger philosophical debates, there are different schools of thought. Perhaps these two monuments can be of the same age. One is under private ownership, so it's being well kept and well looked after, keeps getting coats of paint. The other school of thought, which is archaeological survey, says patina should be like that because we venerate it from the British. Just repair and consolidate, you don't paint it. You leave the ruins and look like ruins. So there's this healthy debate happening that conservation should be product oriented or process oriented. Now this is interesting. I'm the architect for both the projects, and if I ask you the age of the building, which is older, 99 people will raise the hand here. This is very young, 60 years old. This is older than Taj, 16th century. And this is, This is how someone interpreted and did it because it was ill-informed. He was not very well informed that it's a historic building. The interiors are very historic. I'll show you perhaps later. Now we are also having this debate. A lot of people justify, oh, we are using craftsmanship and that's conservation because we are reviving tradition. But see what happens. Glass being put in Rajasthan, where I went into Jaipur, I saw Jarokha coming from a glass facade. So it was very interesting because the Jarokha goes in and it has to have counterweight, but you can see all these funny details happening. Now, whether it is pastiche, conservation, reconstruction, or it's a debate of living heritage, we don't know. Now, we also have a debate. This is St. Mary's Church, this thing in Bandra, which is very popular. This was the fresco which were adorning here, which you can see. They are very happily replacing it with fiberglass. This can have been easily conserved. And if you see abroad, this is a church in Greece. They consolidate the fabric and they leave the authenticity. So the idea is you go to monuments to see the authenticity. You don't go to see the fiberglass thing, something which is missing. Now, when it comes to authenticity of design, this is one of the projects. I just had one photograph, archival image. Now from this we drew the drawing. I'm sorry, it's coming as a bad slide here. And then we experimented to do this. And then if you take a black and white photograph, you can see how nearly we have conjectured it. So in conservation, there is a lot of time, effort. You have to be having evidences to do things rather than just stating that I liked it. Your ego has to be very minimal. Now this is a very important slide, and this is where the problem lies. We tend to go for the word beautification in the disguise of conservation. But these are two separate things. Beautification is conspicuous, quick, expensive, undesirable. The bureaucrat is happy because it's happened in his tenure, but the building is unhappy. You have flora fountain or you have a fountain, they'll paint it. The stone breathes. You're doing a permanent damage to it. Conservation is inconspicuous, slow, economical, desirable. The building is happy, but it will never happen in the bureaucrat's time. It's like planting a seed and the flowers and the fruits will come later. Someone else will benefit. The best compliment I've ever got in my project is, what have you done? And this compliment is, oh, the building looks good. So I never look for this compliment when I'm doing my projects. These are examples of beautification. Paint the monument, it's ready. Oh, and overnight, by tomorrow it's ready. This is VT station. The intention was very well meaning to celebrate 100 years. They decided to clean the building. Look at the bamboos piercing the stained glass. This is the original stained glass, and this is an acrylic replica. This replica is faded in 20 years now. This is opposite VT station, the Western Railway headquarters. Someone painted the statue also there. And with equal, in one day they have removed the paint also by the conservationists. So the idea is that conservation is not like that. This is a town hall. It's the most important Sarkari building. And I get very scared with these 3 dates, 15th August, 26th Jan, and 31st March. They do the most criminal damage what they can do. At least 30 to 40 layers of paints would have been applied. And this is classic example of the youngest public building in Mumbai. Experimentation done. Someone applied some chemical. The salt, which has been so close to the sea, is trapped. It cannot come out. So you deface the youngest public building. This is JJ College of Architecture. MSeal applied to all the pointing, and this is where the flues were, which allowed the building to be kept cool, has been blocked. This was 20 years ago. Now you never had paver blocks, so this is gone. And you can see the sensitivity. The tree doesn't have breathing space. This is JJ College again. They had lovely red color tiles, 31st March, bathroom tiles, quota. So you lost the historicity of JJ College also, the oldest college in Asia. When you see brand new bathroom tiles, you know where. And this is the worst. Can anyone tell me what this is? This is Gateway of India, but it's supposed to have 4 minarets. What are these 4 minarets further? That's the toilet block of Gateway of India. Now, this is where we've been reduced as architects. That if you have to apply, or if you have to get a permission from Heritage, or if you have to design, you will design the toilets also to look like the monuments. As they rightly say, architecture is nothing but the reflection of society. So, good. Now, the question comes, conservation versus development, because this is the constant debate, or conservation as a sensitive tool. Now, what I find very disturbing is that abroad, a new building comes, it is not looking insensitive, because the scale is not overpowering. But when we do something, the scale shoots up to 10 times. And look at this building. So what is the criminality, why should this remain like that? This also will become 10-story. Then where will you see the light? Where will you breathe from? Anyway, we'll talk, sorry. Now, one very important reason, this is a very so-called dilapidated building, rent control and all that thing, but still very graceful. It's like that great grand old man has a lot of grace. There is a timeless quality in old architecture, which I find is not happening in new architecture. This is a chawl being demolished, and this has come up 10 years ago, and it already looks very dilapidated, and in another 5 years it will look like slum. Now, it is only from this point of view that I would argue for conservation, that in case if you cannot give good architecture and urban design, which can become heritage of tomorrow, please respect what you have and at least keep it there. If you can give that much, pull it down. But if you can't, at least preserve it. This is interesting, the typologies in Mumbai. Bungalow, it will be extinct, like a bulb. You will not see bungalows in Bombay because everyone will have apartments. This is also eroding. These are planned apartments. These are design community, and these are organic things, and these are chawls. This is the typology which constitutes the housing of Mumbai. This is we keep doing studies in our college. So this is a study of the inner city, and you can see the inner city fabric, and you can see these people marching. Now, this is alarming. Housing stock of 16,142 cess properties. Cess properties are buildings which are residential, tenanted prior to 1940, where the rents are meager, so they charge a cess. And they become dilapidated, they collapse, and now the government is giving incentives for builders to redevelop them. And the FSI given is higher. Like if the FSI, one reason why these buildings were never pulled because they consume larger FSI. But now if you're giving incentives of 4 and 10 FSI, so you'll see what's happening. This is how a paper quoted, tall ambitions and low hopes. This is how a system works. You see this? This is a lovely historic fabric. You can see it, it's all very well intact. And look at this. Now this is okay, but when these buildings will undergo redevelopment, then what will happen? What will be the view of these guys? At the moment they're lovely, they're enjoying the sea on both the sides, but they're not going to enjoy it long. You can see them marching. You can see them marching. You saw the temperature rise and other things which were mentioned of Mumbai. I need not say. There are more slides which will justify. So there's a big question which comes. There's enough for everyone's need, but there's not enough for everyone's greed. Now, the earlier buildings were ground plus 4-story, but now ground plus 6-story is car park. But the road width is the same. So where are we applying our planning norms? This is the buildings which I've restored. This is the redevelopment happening, and this is interesting. This is a slum rehabilitation project, and it's like a prime landmark with a pyramid. Now this was very disturbing when I went to Venice. This is London's density. This is New York's density. You can see Manhattan here. This is Tokyo, which we all consider to be. But just see Mumbai. This was in 2006. This density is touching here. Now, just imagine that if we have a disaster, God forbid an earthquake, where will you evacuate and put temporary tents? No place. We don't have open spaces. Open spaces are only going to be on terraces of the building. Now this is interesting. We did an academic study on Bindi Bazaar, which is the densest area of Mumbai. When it was designed, you can first see it's a lovely photograph. If I remove the red lines, it looks like a modern art painting also, because it's a very good grain of housing pattern. The FSI consumed is 4 here. This is what is proposed for its redevelopment. For those people who are familiar, this is Muhammad Ali Road flyover. It's good they have not shown anything here. They're showing as if it's C, but just visualize this is what with FSI 10 you'll get in the densest area of Mumbai. Just see how Chor Bazaar, which was at the ground level, will get cut because this development will happen like this. So you can see what's happening to the grain. It's just been cut and you'll have this. Just see the section. At the moment an ambulance can't pass. This is Muhammad Ali Road flyover. How can you have 2-story basement? How will the cars come out? Looks very good on paper, but realities are totally different. Now, when our college did a study, we realized that these black properties are the ones, this is how we realized some buildings can be significant. So there was an approach of conservative surgery that you demolish the dilapidated one, retain the good ones, and do a mix of it, and you create an architecture which will not be so high-rise, but it will be complementing the lifestyles, the social pattern, and everything. So this is the existing scenario. This black, if we redevelop, you can do it, but this is what it is. So the question is, will Chor Bazaar remain Chor Bazaar? Certainly not. Now I'll show you case studies because I've talked about the issues, I've talked about the academic side. This is one of my earliest building which I started. Now it's being restored again by some other people. But this is what I talked to you about, complete documentation of work. So if you have a window which is damaged, everything is marked, recorded. This is the concept of 6 inches, 6 yards. If I don't show you, you will not be able to make out that these are the repairs. From 6 yards you cannot. The idea is to retain maximum of authenticity. I could have easily changed this whole glass panel into one, but we've not changed it.